breaking news that has rocked the Christian community worldwide. The family of legendary televangelist Jimmy Swaggart has shared devastating updates about the 90-year-old minister's critical condition after he suffered cardiac arrest at his Baton Rouge home. What started as a normal Sunday morning has turned into every family's worst nightmare, and the emotional updates from his son Donnie Swaggart have left millions of followers around the world praying for a miracle. This is a developing story that has captured the attention of believers and non-believers alike, as one of America's most recognizable religious figures fights for his life. The details of what happened that Sunday morning, and the family's tearful account of their desperate attempts to save him, will break your heart. Stay with us as we bring you the latest on this heartbreaking situation. On the morning of June 15, 2025, at approximately 8 a.m., Jimmy Swaggart went into cardiac arrest at his home in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. What should have been a peaceful Sunday morning for the 90-year-old televangelist quickly became a life-or-death emergency that would send shockwaves through the global Christian community. According to his son Donnie Swaggart, this morning at a little after 8 a.m., Gabe and I rushed into Mother's house after discovering the emergency. The scene that greeted them was every family's worst fear, their beloved patriarch unconscious and unresponsive. The most heartbreaking detail that Donnie shared with his congregation was that Jimmy Swaggart never regained consciousness after the cardiac arrest. Think about that for a moment. This man who has spent decades preaching to millions, whose voice has been heard around the world, whose presence has filled auditoriums and television screens, was suddenly silent and still. In a moment that demonstrates the depth of family love, Donnie and his son Gabe took turns giving him chest compressions until the EMT could get there. Picture this scene, a son desperately trying to save his father's life, performing CPR while waiting for emergency responders, knowing that every second could be the difference between life and death. Donnie later recounted, "I've never seen so many people arrive at one time, and I want to thank them," referring to the emergency medical personnel who responded to the call. The EMTs were able to get Jimmy's heartbeat back, but the battle was far from over. The most emotional moment came when Donnie Swaggart had to face his father's congregation at the family worship center that Sunday evening. During a special prayer service, he described the traumatic incident to thousands of followers who had gathered, many of them having no idea of the morning's events. Donnie Swaggart offered a heartfelt update on his father's health, asking supporters for continued prayer and faith as the 90-year-old minister remains hospitalized. The weight of the situation was evident in his voice as he struggled to maintain composure while delivering news that no son ever wants to share. "This situation is beyond human strength and strength of character," Donnie said in his update about his father's condition. These words reveal the profound helplessness that the family is experiencing. Despite their faith, despite their prayers, despite their desperate efforts, they are facing a situation that is completely out of their control. The congregation at Family Worship Center, many of whom have followed Jimmy Swaggart's ministry for decades, was visibly moved as Donnie shared these intimate and painful details. Some attendees were seen wiping away tears, others fell to their knees in prayer, and the collective grief was palpable throughout the sanctuary. What makes this even more heart-wrenching is that Jimmy Swaggart has been more than just a televangelist to many of these people. He's been a spiritual father, a source of comfort during their own difficult times, and a constant presence in their lives for years or even decades. Jimmy Swaggart remains in critical condition in the intensive care unit of a Baton Rouge hospital, where medical professionals are doing everything possible to stabilize his condition. At 90 years old, cardiac arrest presents particularly serious challenges, and the medical team is working around the clock to provide the best possible care. Despite the efforts to revive him, the 90-year-old has not regained consciousness. This detail, repeated by family members in multiple updates, underscores the severity of his condition and the uphill battle he faces. Recent reports indicate that, without a miracle, his time is short, a phrase that captures both the medical reality and the family's reliance on divine intervention. This stark assessment from medical professionals has only intensified the global prayer efforts on his behalf. The fact that Jimmy Swaggart has remained unconscious since the initial cardiac arrest is particularly concerning to medical experts. When someone of his age experiences such a significant cardiac event, the lack of consciousness often indicates the severity of the damage and the challenges ahead. The family has gathered by his bedside, maintaining a constant vigil and holding on to hope while preparing for whatever outcome may come. This image of a family united in crisis, surrounding their patriarch with love and prayer, has resonated deeply with followers around the world. To understand the magnitude of this situation, we need to appreciate who Jimmy Swaggart is and what he represents in the world of televangelism. At 90 years old, he has been a fixture in American religious broadcasting for over 6 decades, reaching millions of viewers worldwide through his television ministry. Jimmy Swaggart's influence extends far beyond just preaching. He's an accomplished gospel musician, having recorded numerous albums and songs that have become staples in Christian music. His piano playing and passionate singing style have been as much a part of his ministry as his preaching. His ministry, Jimmy Swaggart Ministries, operates the Sun Life Broadcasting Network, which reaches into millions of homes across America and around the world. The Family Worship Center in Baton Rouge, where his son Donnie now pastors, has been the hub of this global ministry for decades. Despite controversies in his past, Jimmy Swaggart has maintained a devoted following who see him as a man who has overcome his failures and continue to serve God faithfully. His vulnerability about his own struggles has actually endeared him to many followers who appreciate his honesty about human frailty. The potential loss of such a significant figure in televangelism would leave a massive void in the Christian broadcasting world. His unique preaching style, his musical talents, and his passionate delivery have influenced countless other ministers and touched millions of lives worldwide. The news of Jimmy Swaggart's condition has sparked an unprecedented prayer movement that spans continents and denominations. Special prayer services have been organized, with believers gathering not just at Family Worship Center but in churches around the world to pray for his recovery. Social media platforms have been flooded with #PrayForJimmySwaggart hashtags, as believers and even non-believers share their hopes for his recovery. The comments sections of news articles and social media posts are filled with personal testimonies of how his ministry impacted individual lives over the decades. Many people are sharing stories of how Jimmy Swaggart's preaching helped them through difficult times, how his music brought them comfort, or how his ministry played a role in their spiritual journey. These testimonies reveal the deep personal connection that millions of people feel with this evangelist. Churches across various denominations have included Jimmy Swaggart in their prayer lists, demonstrating how his current crisis has transcended theological differences and united believers in a common cause. Pastors who may have disagreed with him doctrinally are still asking their congregations to pray for his recovery. The global reach of this prayer movement is truly remarkable. Reports are coming in of prayer vigils being held in churches across America, prayer chains being organized in Africa where his television ministry has a strong following, and believers in Europe and Asia joining in the collective plea for divine intervention. His family continues to ask for continued prayer and faith during this critical time, recognizing that they need all the spiritual support they can get as they navigate this incredibly difficult situation. As the Swaggart family continues their vigil, they're balancing hope with the harsh reality of the medical situation. The family has acknowledged that Jimmy Swaggart needs a miracle, which speaks to both their faith and their understanding of the gravity of his condition. This situation has become a real-time test of faith for the family and for the millions of followers around the world. The very man who has preached about trusting God in impossible circumstances, who has encouraged others to believe in divine healing and miraculous intervention, is now the subject of those same prayers and that same faith. For Donnie Swaggart, this is not just about losing a father, it's about potentially losing the patriarch of a ministry that has been his life's work as well. The Family Worship Center, the television ministry, the global outreach, all of these were built around Jimmy Swaggart's unique calling and charisma. Yet in their public statements, the family has demonstrated remarkable grace under pressure. Instead of becoming bitter or angry, they've remained focused on prayer, faith, and trusting God's will, whatever that may be. This response has actually strengthened the faith of many followers who are watching how the family handles this crisis. The medical reality is stark, but the family's faith remains strong. They're preparing for all possibilities while continuing to hope and pray for the impossible. This balance between faith and realism is something that many families facing similar medical crises can relate to and draw strength from. Whether Jimmy Swaggart recovers or goes home to be with the Lord, his legacy is secure. But for now, the focus remains on prayer, family unity, and cherishing whatever time may be left with this remarkable man who has touched so many lives. The devastating updates from Jimmy Swaggart's family have reminded us all of life's fragility and the importance of cherishing our loved ones while we can. As the 90-year-old evangelist fights for his life in a Baton Rouge ICU, millions around the world continue to pray for a miracle. Whether you're a longtime follower of his ministry or someone just learning about this situation, the love and devotion shown by his family during this crisis is both heartbreaking and inspiring. Their transparency in sharing their pain, their continued faith despite devastating circumstances, and their request for global prayer support shows the strength of their character. We'll continue to monitor this developing story and bring you updates as they become available. Please keep the Swaggart family in your thoughts and prayers during this incredibly difficult time. If you're a person of faith, join millions around the world in praying for Jimmy Swaggart's recovery. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for continued coverage of this story and other important news affecting the faith community.